Yeah, Josh Allen's got these guys rolling. They've found their running game. The defense has gotten progressively better and better. I mean, Buffalo is just amped to be elite. And after what they did last weekend, I think you have to subscribe to that. Rams are playing so hard with all their kids on defense, but they're facing a quarterback and a running back and a passing game. And then Matthew Stafford's going to face a really rugged Bills defense. Rams lose this, they're done. They'll be 6-7 if they lose it. Granted, the division is kind of messy. I just don't know if the Rams can recover. I think it's going to be a huge challenge for Matthew Stafford against the Buffalo defense. And I think, obviously, the Rams kids who've been just blitzing and they're playing really on the edge, but can they hold up against Josh Allen? Atlanta, Minnesota, Kirk Cousins homecoming. I wonder if he's going to get booed and booed badly when he goes to Minnesota because he walked away from the Vikings. Minnesota's having a great season. Atlanta's lost 3 in a row. Cousins, 4 miserable interceptions last weekend. Couldn't believe in a game that statistically they dominated, he kept giving the ball up, and the decisions he made and the pressure, just absolutely terrible. So you got Minnesota against Atlanta. Seattle, Arizona. Geno Smith doing it by himself. 3,000-yard offensive season for the Seahawks. Kyler Murray. Now, they're playing better at home than they are on the road, and John Gannon's got that defense playing better. It's going to be a huge challenge, but Seattle's in first place for a couple more hours. But if they get beat on Sunday, then the whole world is going to be tied for first place in the NFC West. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I don't know if we can outdo the snowball that we saw last week, but Jameis Winston comes off that 497-yard, 4-touchdown performance. They go play the Steelers, and all that defense and the blitzes and the third down stops and the takeaways. And Russell Wilson's coming off a 414-yard throwing performance. You look at that roster and say, how the hell is that possible? You don't have any game breakers. Yet Russell Wilson's thrown through for 414 last week. So this is going to be a fun game between the AFC North rivals. And by the way, they don't like each other. Not at all. And the fans don't like each other either. So Pittsburgh, Cleveland's going to be great. And, of course, we had Thursday Night Football. Dan Campbell, how about that? Going for fourth down 5 times in the game, getting 3 touchdowns out of it on those drives. And Detroit holds off Green Bay. At one point, that was 17-7 Detroit in the first quarter. And I said, Packers are not coming back. Well, Green Bay started to pound the ball. And Detroit's defense, which is shredded by injury, could not get off the field. And that's why Dan Campbell did what he did. He openly admitted it this morning that he went for it on fourth down so many times because he could not put his defense on the field because his defense couldn't stop that running game. And if the defense had to go on the field, he was of the opinion Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love were going to get him down into the end zone again. I mean, because it was 17-7 and it wound up being a tie game really late. But Campbell's brassy. He's got no fear. He's got a lot of confidence in what's a really, really good offensive football team. His defense has just been shredded by injuries. So, John, put up, shut up weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, put up, shut up. I remember reading an article in Sports Illustrated, 20 years ago. And it was a high school football team, and their coach would go for it on fourth down every time. They never punted. And they said statistically, it makes the most sense. You know, when you're playing the probability, and not just fourth down when you're in enemy territory, fourth down anytime, no punting. Some people have even taken it further to extreme and say, well, no, not only no punting, but no field goals. We're going to go for a touchdown every time. Could that even work in the NFL? I don't know.
No, because the other team's got a lot of skilled players. The other team's got big gun quarterbacks. Other team's got great wide receivers and power running backs. You know, the NFL game is all about territorial game. It's, John, I'm giving you the football at your 8-yard line. We'll see if you can man up and go 92 yards against my guys. Mm-hmm. So that's why the kicking game, the punting game, the field position game is equally important.
But I think it's interesting that Dan Campbell figured out that his defense couldn't stop the other side, like you were saying. So why not go for it on fourth? I know. I just think sometimes football coaches are so conservative to do it the way it's always been done. You know, so that's why they're, you know, it'll be like 4th and 1, and they'll often punt it. But just moving on, the other comment I want to make is about the Vikings. I was watching Colin Cowherd, and they were talking about all the different coaches and who was, you know, the elite coaches. O'Connell getting a lot of respect right now, in terms of what he's been able to accomplish. And he's still a young man.
Very, very much so. And they've rebuilt that thing. I mean, they had to rebuild when Cousins left, and Cousins was making unbelievable amounts of money, like $32 million a year in Minnesota. They had not really won. When he vacated, they got put in a real tough situation. They got J.J. McCarthy in the draft, and he got hurt with a knee injury that was worse than they first feared. And he had to play Sam Darnold because that was the next guy in line. And Darnold was big and physical and experienced, but had very little success while with the Jets. And all of a sudden, it worked. It clicked. They ran the offense that O'Connell wanted. Darnold put his arms around it. Darnold became more competitive. Darnold became more bulletproof in terms of throwing interceptions because that had really haunted him with the New York Jets. So, no, O'Connell's done a great, great job, and the front office has gotten him some unbelievably skilled wide receivers. I mean, we all know about Justin Jefferson on one side. I thought Jordan Addison was going to be a big-time player when he came out of USC, and it took him a little bit of a while, and he's become a really dangerous guy, and he throw to the tight ends all the time. So O'Connell's had just a big impact with his X's and O's, and the front office is giving him players, and O'Connell's ability to work with Darnold about this is what you got to do, got to be different. This is what we do here. Do what I say. The guy's got a quarterback rating of 105. Last time Sam Darnold's name was mentioned, he was on the waiver wire, about to be unemployed.
Yeah. He's had a nice comeback. Good for him, because he was so much. Did he win the Heisman Trophy when he was at USC?
No, I don't think so. But he was really good.
Yeah, he was really good back in that day. But I saw one of the headlines relating to O'Connell. It said that he is still very obsessive about the sport, but at the same time, he expresses a lot of empathy. And both of those skill sets, people skills, have really helped this team turn it around.
They believe in him right now. But you talked about O'Connell's brilliance. Do you remember middle of last season when they were a mess? Who was the quarterback that had never practiced? Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
Came in there and gave him 3 or 4 really good games that they wound up winning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing the podcast saying, practice? Who needs practice? Invoking my best Allen Iverson thing, because Josh Dobbs won a bunch of games for him. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. But O'Connell's bright guy. He's done very, very well. So those are all things NFL football.